Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack, and I don't know what we're doing with it because this is yours. So you can have it. You can have this Impact Attack. But anyway, the VBC is back together again. Uh, Hi, I'm the V in the VBC. I'm the vet, Jamie Williams, and I'm tagging my partner Brandon in through the magic of the internet. Even throughout the with our ISP troubles, it's still hot. Look at him. Look at he can hardly take it. Brandon, can you still make a comeback on these people? Is it going to be able to happen?
Oh yeah, man. In fact, I'm taking this fire hand. I'm using it on the opponent because we all know you punch somebody with fire, they're still kicking out.
That's right, a house of fire. You're a veritable house of fire, actually. And I guess we have the people cheering us on, the chat. They're here. Labrat is already showing his great generosity, and with his $5 super sticker of a little fox clapping and saying bravo. So thank you very much, Labrat. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We've got many other people here joining us. Let's let the people know who they are.
Yeah, thank you, Lab Rat, for the $5 super sticker. Whoop whoop. That's one of the 4 horse people here we got tonight. We also got Chris Willen with a question in the chat about 35 minutes ago. We got Liz, we got Javi Uchiha, we got Scott Woodford, pal. Whoop whoop. How y'all doing? Yeet yeet.
Superstars. They're all superstars. Um, yeah, and I'm glad that Chris Winland has a question because guess what? I don't have any news. Nothing happened. So I am completely at the mercy of anything anybody else wants to talk about, or I'll throw it to Brandon too before we get to the question. If there's anything that transpired over the weekend or anything that we would like to discuss here, get in depth about anything at all that is pertinent.
Man, not a whole lot going on, at least in the wrestling world. It seems like, though, there are some elements kind of bubbling beneath the surface that could lead to some things down the road, but, we'll see when it happens, if it happens.
Yes, we're all at the rumor stage right now. We did have a Night of Champions. Did you end up watching Night of Champions?
Yes, sir, and that ended up turning into a good portion of it turning into me, Kenny F. and Powers like doing Trailer Park Boys talk, like, oh yeah, the show's still going on.
I see. Well, aside from that, anything to sort of take away from Night of Champions?
I could. They're telegraphing the John Cena face turn. Like they're not letting him close out his career as a baby face, but it's still like trying to get as much out of this heel turn as possible. Because it's like, okay, we know this has been a botch, but we're still going to get what we can out of it before we turn him back baby face.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Maria Kanellis, baby number 3. Whoop whoop. That's the first I've heard about Carmelo. So congrats to both families. Whoop whoop.
Yeah. All right. Not much else to say about it though. We can congratulate them. We've known Cardi B will be at SummerSlam for months.
Two nights.
Yeah. We got you're gonna have plenty of Cardi B for all the Cardi B fans. This coming SummerSlam, which, yeah, I'm sorry, I got nothing. I got nothing. There's nothing. Nothing happened. Sorry. So I guess with that, we'll just go right to the Chris Winland question. So Chris asks, what are some wrestling holds/moves that are harder to take or perform than they look on TV? Do you think old school grappling is giving way to flips and dives too much? I mean, that's a leading question. Viva la chinlock and armbar. Well, let's start with the second part. Do you think grappling is giving way to flips and dives? No.
Oh no, of course not.
What are you talking about, Chris? Come on, you even watch wrestling anymore? Jeez. This shit, oh, I mean, you can't even call it wrestling. Guys don't wrestle that much. Or they forget that it is. They kind of lose the plot on some psychology. All right, now let's jump back to the first part. Holds and moves harder to take or perform than they look on TV. Um, mm, um. Well, I know I've talked in the past about how it looks like some things would be really difficult and they end up not being that difficult, and other things we take for granted and it's a lot more complicated than it looks. Like putting on a proper headlock, the way you're supposed to do it as a pro wrestler. A lot goes into that you probably don't think about. You don't just grab a guy by the head. There's a lot of stuff you have to do, whereas, something like a sunset flip, it looks complicated, but you just jump over the guy and it just kind of works somehow. So like in that sense,
Like with a sunset flip, you can make the awkwardness of pulling it off work in the context of making the move look real and organic.
yeah. But it has to look real, but you want it to look real, but you also want it to look theatrical. You want it to look like something that anyone can see from any spot in the building. Right? So things like that. I don't know. I don't know any particular moves that I thought, "Oh, this is a hard move to take." I'm sure there are, because I'm sure that guys are inventing like much more complicated stuff that they have to do that they don't like. That other maybe they don't like to take.
I'm sorry, like when it comes to the context of the question of like harder to take or perform, when it comes to, like when you brought up the headlock, it's like that just brought up so many memories of how many times I can't remember of when I'm like, we're working a spot, we do the going to the headlock. It's like, nope, tilt your chest up, head up, bring his head up. That way everybody in the top row can see it.
Mm-hmm. Your feet. You have to put your feet. You have to have your one leg back and your one leg forward in a slight lunge position. I mean, you want to. A lot of these things that people don't really think about. They're concentrating on the moves, but you also have to give those moments of, the action shot. Like in the old days when you would take photographs for the magazines and things, and you'd want to get a good shot. It's like those are the things in your mind that you should be thinking about. Like if I'm doing this sort of a pose, it's like not just a pose like, like a Hulk Hogan pose, but like even just doing a move can be a pose, like especially a hold, like an arm bar, like you said. That arm bar, if you put an arm bar on somebody, and we're not talking about like the Ronda Rousey one, but I mean like the other one, that shows the domination, because you've got the person like usually like on their knees and you're like standing over them, pushing down, and it shows like it tells a story. The picture, the pose tells a story. I'm stronger than this guy right now.
If you have both guys selling it, you have the one guy who has the arm bar on and he's like extended, he has a lock in, he's selling it with his face. The other guy selling it with his face and body expressions or body language. Like that's how you tell a story in the ring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not just like putting a sequence together. That's what they think telling a story in the ring is now. Like, well, the story is that we dodged each other's moves 10 times, but that is a story, but it's not as good of a story.
I'd rather watch a story of a guy getting his arm worked on. He's in the middle of an arm hold and he's trying to figure out a way to get out of it, or else he'll tap out.
Right. So you could tell bigger stories, you could tell smaller stories, but yeah, wrestling has gotten away from that because you have, we were talking about dives and flips and stuff. Like you used to, all the wrestling that you used to do is to lead up to like your first high spot. 9 times out of 10, your first high spot would be like a hip toss or something. You know what I mean? Like it's going from the tie up phase to whatever your rope running spot is, and then it usually with the tackle drop down hip toss.
Give me the international, pal.
Right. The international, the universal, the whatever you want to call it, tackle drop down. You could call it whatever you want, but we all know it, and that's supposed to be the high spot. And the reason that that is a high spot is because you don't just, come straight out the gate with a bunch of stuff. You let people settle into it. You show them, again, you tell the story of the feeling out process. Okay, we're gonna tie up. We're gonna see who can get the advantage off of that. That's the first part. And then however that goes, there's so many different ways you can go just from the tie up and then whatever, but you're usually going to run into tackle drop down for the baby face, and the baby face does a hip toss. Now guys are hip tossing themselves out of the ring for the first high spot. Like the person will have hit the floor and they'll chase them with by doing like a tope, and then, but they'll get to the tope faster than the old school guys would get to the hip toss. So where do you go from a tope? You slow it back down? That's no. The old school guys would have the tope towards almost right before the finish. Because it's a very exciting thing, and you're not going to get people much more hyped up than when you fly out of the ring at another dude. Yes. And if you're only listening, Brandon is showing that there's levels to this and stages that you go through. You build up to it. You don't just give it away. But now, if you raise the bar for what people think is exciting, then you have to constantly keep pushing the envelope. So, for example, when you have these guys that are doing all these moves, why are they doing all these moves to each other on the apron? Why are they doing all these moves to each other on the floor? Why are they taking all these bumps through furniture, Brandon?
I don't know. Remember back in the day when that used to be a stretcher job or something like that would lead to that?
I do remember. And it also means that a stretcher is, if a stretcher comes out now, it better be for something really, really big, but it's usually not. I mean, again, I've been talking about this, but it's like the Liv Morgan thing. Liv Morgan took a drop toe hold and her shoulder was destroyed, right? So now you want me to watch somebody get a power bomb through a ladder or, fly out the ring through two tables and then kick out of whatever. But I just saw Liv Morgan get decimated by a drop toe hold. So now I don't believe anything. And the real injuries are anticlimactic. They're not exciting or dramatic. They're usually very subtle and they come from the silliest of routine things. So that's the other danger of ramping everything up too much. But if you've got all these guys taking these bumps, it's because we've dumbed down the believability of wrestling. We've made things too phony. We've made too many silly characters. We've made too many silly storylines. We're telling people in press conferences that it's fake. So these guys are like, well, if everything's fake, at least I could take a real bump and then the people will respect me because I'm doing this for them. And that's kind of not the way you're supposed to have gone about this business. But this is where we are. Can we get it back? Yes. But it's going to be a slow process of retraining the audience to lower their expectations a little bit so that with them we can bring them back up. I just don't see that happening, but it's possible. Because I know people have asked about that in the past too. Like, can we ever go back to the way we go? Can we? Yes. Will we? No. But yes, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, it would just take work. It's just how many people in the business are willing to put in the work needed to get it done.
Yeah.
When it's easier, it's like, no, collect a paycheck from a billionaire or, TKO Endeavor and be like, yeah, just be a yes man.
I mean, it is. But then you also have to look at when you're over, there's levels of acceptable. Like you take the CM Punk and John Cena match from Night of Champions, and thank God both those guys are over. Because if that was two nobodies that went out there and put that match on, they would have got booed out of that building. They'd been like, who the fuck are these people doing this shitty wrestling? But because it's Punk and Cena, they can get away with it. It's fine if you're rotten, right? So, and those guys were never the best mechanically, even at their peak or in their prime. They were never like, they always were a little bit awkward and uncoordinated. So now in their 50-year-old versions, they're not going to be even as good as they were back then. But your overness carries you, so it's fine. But yeah. So yes, we have gotten away from grappling. I really do think it's funny too, because it's like the whole thing is there's so much stuff of like, I was just talking about this with the on the wreckage with the I'm so tired of this, Brandon. Tell me how tired you are of the person like standing there while the other person's there and saying, "Come on, get up. Come on, get up," for like 30 seconds while the person slowly staggers up.
Right. Yeah. If we're looking at this from a kayfabe logical perspective in psychology, if I'm on the ground and my opponent's yelling at me to get up, okay, I know something's coming. I'm going to be prepared for it.
Well, even more than that, like, yeah, of course you're gonna be like, you look stupid like feeding into something from that. But also think about this. Okay, let's say we're in college and we're amateur wrestlers and we're trying out, we want to go to the Olympics one day, right? So if I land a fireman's carry takedown on you, am I gonna get up, back off from you, and say, "Come on, come on"?
No, you're gonna be right on top of me. Keep making sure I don't get up.
Yeah. If I'm playing Street Fighter and I'm Zangief and if I get close to you, am I gonna back off?
Nope.
No, I want to grab you and do that spinning pile driver, right? Like that's the whole thing. You are a wrestler. A wrestler wants to wrestle you, and we can worry about the dives later. We worry about the dives when the other person wants to escape. But if I have you, I'm not going to let you escape. So I think a lot of that psychology would help make the matches feel different. Like instead of everybody having the same match, having people utilize the psychology of, I'm here to get my hands on you and hold you down. That's the whole point of this exercise that we're doing. So I'm not going to back off from you after I do something and be like, "Come on, come on."
Yeah. If E Honda threw somebody into the corner and had them cornered in it, it's going to be like, step back and go, "Come on." No, he's throwing them lightning hands.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, I mean, I think we basically covered it, but yeah, I definitely, as far as wrestling holds that were difficult to take, I don't know. I just say that some are more complicated than they seem, but I also say, yeah, it's definitely more about flipping than grappling now. I mean, FTR weren't they saying no flips, just fists, and even, cash and dives on people all the time. So it's a rib. The whole thing's a rib. Speaking of ribs, I think we can go to the Impact review now. And we have our traditional ketchup bottle.
No, I already blew through that.
Oh, we got a packet.
Yeah, it's a hot sauce packet, but...
Oh, okay. Well, it looks red enough. That's fine. Yeah, so just to let everyone know what's happening, we do the packet. Then Joe Hendry comes out. He cuts the same promo in the ring that he's been cutting on video about apologizing for letting everybody down. And yes, I will bring back this belt at Slammiversary. So we get it, I'm starting to see with this episode here, maybe even before this episode, but especially in this episode, I'm starting to see the formatting of a very familiar other wrestling company, like when it comes to these things here. So start with a guy doing an in-ring promo, and that's standard stuff for any wrestling company. So maybe that would just be a coincidence, but we'll see later on. What'd you think of Joe Hendry's promo of same old stuff?
Yeah, it did feel like a live action version of the video package we saw last week. I wish we could see something. What if we had instead of, the announcement of Santana later on, or him coming out doing the thing, how he confronts Joe Hendry, saying like, no, you dropped the ball, you failed. It's my time to take a crack at it or bring the belt back.
Right. And then Joe Hendry could say, you dropped the ball and you failed because you couldn't get it back at, when you went to NXT, right? Like, I could give them something to
right. And
go at each other.
And Santana could go right back to, yeah, I would have got it done had AJ Francis and Casey Navarro not shown up.
Yep. I also want to just, I know when we were talking about we were doing the when we were doing the Chris Winland question, Scott Woodford did throw in a super chat there. So can we put that back up? Just, I want to acknowledge the super chat because he asked, TNA is coming to Minnesota. Should I go? I don't know, Scott. Should you? Why not?
I will say, as long as it does not hurt you financially, absolutely, it's worth it to go.
Yeah, I think Scott Woodford is secretly rich, so I don't know how much financial impact, pun intended, that would have. But yeah, if it sounds like a good time, you know.
If you can financially absorb the hit, it's worth it.
Yep. So next is the Killer Kelly promo. Look out, girls! I'm winning this battle royal, she says in her own, way. But at least there was no music underneath, and there was, there was lighting, but even though the hashtag turn off the lights campaign is perpetual, Killer Kelly usually has red lights. So, like, if there's someone that gets to do it, I guess I'll allow it here.
Yeah, at least for her, it works for her character.
Yeah. There's a precedent, right? It's the same reason why I disavow matches with kendo sticks, but if it's Kenny or Kendra, like, it's allowed because they actually are established characters in the cast. So,
yeah. I'm surprised they have not done an intergender tag team kendo stick or Kenny and Kendra intergender tag team match on a pole.
Ooh. Wait, are they the partners or are they just on the pole?
There are some both. Yeah, I assume it'd be Eddie and Alicia versus another husband-wife tag team.
But which one but if Eddie and Alicia, do they get to hang two kendo sticks in their corner? Because they're not going to give one of the other, or is one of their kendo sticks going to turn on them and turn babyface and go to the other side? Is Kendra going to turn babyface?
Yes, after. Sorry, I'm about to go into Child's Play territory. It's like, nope, that doesn't work.
Okay, all right. Don't put your soul in a kendo stick. And don't expect to have a soul after you were forced to watch Zachary Wentz with Trey Miguel in his corner versus Ryan Ziegler with Dolph Ziggler in his corner. I'll say this. Zach does put him away with the spiral tap, but it took him a lot longer to do that than it did for that bride and groom to put him through the table in that viral clip that was going around of him at the wedding and that cringe bullshit. Yeah, I would say maybe the husband and wife should get a tag team title shot before the Rascals, because they got rid of Ryan a lot quicker. So that's just my thought, but I mean, what did you think?
I think that would work. Yeah, just bring him on there, have him do a quick squash match, and then have the Rascals run out.
Yeah, why not? Anything about this match though?
I mean, yeah, it was alright, but again, like you mentioned, the whole thing is kind of hard
to ever take Ryan seriously again, even though it was already hard to take him seriously.
Yeah, but I try to at least try to do some kind of kayfabe, make sense out of stuff. Okay, it was a wedding. He was just, going over the top, acting for his friends at the wedding. That's just where my screwed up mind goes. Try to make some kind of kayfabe sense out of it.
Well, bless your heart. NXT recap time. we get to see what all happened on Tuesday's episode of NXT this past Tuesday. And then we get Trick with Gia, no music underneath. He says that basically he says a lot of stuff, but he says that AJ will kick Santana back to the block, and that's Trick NA stamped and approved. So we'll see if that happens. I've definitely said that Trick Williams has found almost everything that he's been looking for as far as like being a well-rounded performer. I think his promos like this very lately have been better than they had. They were better than his first heel run. They're certainly better than his babyface run. I think he's found the sort of like whatever Trick Williams is supposed to be as a character. I think he's found what that is and dialed it in. So all he needs is the repetitions and the experience now.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like he's kind of looking at the whole thing of, hey, for this cross promotion thing, you're the first guy taking a belt, and it's going to be the TNA World Title. And I think he kind of looks at that as, all right, they're handing me the ball, they're giving me an opportunity. I'm going to run with it and make sure I don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Not only that, but overperform as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, they definitely handed him the ball with the NXT title, but I just don't know if the way they position him was maybe best for him at that time, or if they even knew what to do with him. And sometimes you can overcome the booking if you're experienced enough, but he obviously wasn't. So that's why we got where we got.
Now you mentioned that he might have learned from his time as NXT champion. Okay, like I'm gonna learn from my mistakes there and do better here.
You always have to be learning. I mean, pro athletes, some subscribe to the theory that you either win or you learn. There is no real losing. But since professional wrestling is a work, you should better be learning all the damn time. And
everything's a learning opportunity.
Yep. So anyway, Lei Ying Lee enters, and then we come back from break, and then we get Masha with Gia, no music underneath. She's saying she wants to challenge Killer Kelly to a chain match next week. And then Ariana Grace comes in and says she has a surprise in the works for everybody, but she can't tell her about it. Sorry. And Masha says, bring it on.
What kind of surprised me about this? Because like in a recent interview, Ariana Grace said like she's no longer doing the liaison character. She's kind of exclusively going back to NXT, which this directly contradicts that. So I wonder if like they told her one thing and then plans changed.
I'm sure plans changed. And then not only did she go back to NXT, but she went back to being like a heel character to have a match with the Olympic gold medalist and LFG winner Tyra May Steele, and neither one of them have been seen since. So yeah. Until now, here's Ariana Grace. So now we get the women's battle royal. It's a battle royal. It's gonna come down to, okay, I'll just skip to the end. It's gonna come down to Indy Hartwell and Tessa Blanchard. But actually, no, it isn't, because Ash is gonna dump both of them out, and she is going to win the title shot for Slammiversary against Masha Slamovich, unless the belt's on the line in that chain match, but I don't recall. And possibly Killer Kelly could win, but yeah. So Ash dumps them out, and then Masha walks out, and then Reptilian Britt Baker walks out, and they all just stand around looking, because that's how they do things in WWE. You just come out and stand and look, and belt hold. If you have a belt, you hold it up.
Lift your belt up higher. Lift the belt up higher, Billy.
I know I complain about too much violence on these shows, And it's be hypocritical of me to start complaining about too little violence on these shows. So I'm not asking for violence. What I'm asking was can we do something like less lazy than you're just gonna play. Why would TNA be playing if JC Jane is there and nobody knows she's there? Why are they just gonna play her music and have her walk out? Like, I'm TNA. Oh, good thing I had JC Jane's music on tap at the push of a button. Get the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah, how about this? Just have JC Jane run out from behind, from lay out Masha with her belt, and then you got Ariana Grace like being like, "Yeah, I set this up, and they stand tall over her." All right, now I'm kind of a little bit hooked to go watch NXT to see how Masha responds to this.
Yeah. Well, more so than this anyway. So, whatever that we could have done, they didn't do it. Well, Labrat does say that wrestlers can't find the ring without music. But again, they're not supposed to be helping her because they're not supposed to know, right? So
well, we did get the Penta doing the Jeff Hardy. Make sure I do my entrance and get that in before I run down and help everybody out.
It's really good. It's kind of like I want to say he's trying to get his, for the Aki wrestling game fans, he's trying to get his spirit meter up before he gets down there so that he'll have a special move when he hits the ring. I think that's the psychology on that one.
All of a sudden, I'm remembering those old Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi games.
Yeah, that too. So Jake Something does a promo, and he credits Tommy Dreamer for believing in him. So I'm like, oh, so it's Streamer's fault that you're back. Okay. And he also says that Burt Macklin is on notice since he's the international champion. And Burt did notice. And he's like, oh, so you want a shot at this, huh? You're made for this, huh? All right. Well, I'll see you soon or whatever. So there you go. Look forward to the Burt and Jake Classic coming up. And then we have our favorite time of the week, the gimmick injury report. Sadly, 2 of these injuries were already they were just repeats of previous injury coverages. We only have 1 new one. And it's not even new because, number 1, okay, Mike Santana, injury to the, champagne bottle to the head. He is cleared of that. And we know that because he's in the main event. Then we have KC Navarro with his dislocated knee, which we already knew because they used that one last week. He is out. And we have Elijah with a torn triceps who is out. But I already reported that last week before they did. So it's not even really new if you listen to the Impact Attack. So.
Well, didn't technically happen like a week ago tomorrow, like 8 days ago? Or sorry, 6 days ago at the last NXT?
Mm-hmm. Yep. But they could have I mean, they didn't. The reason they could have inserted that, they could have recorded something and inserted that into the program, but the reason they didn't was because he had to wrestle on that program, so that wouldn't have made sense if he was on the gimmick injury report and then showed up in a match later. So I understand why they didn't do it, but just saying.
Or you could just pull some footage of him wrestling just from somewhere and just be like, hey, he got injured wrestling over the weekend.
Nah. But I mean, he did lose a tricep. And in the call to arms match, we find out exactly what that means. What it means is they start the match with one of their hands tied to the ropes with a piece of rope. And whoever can undo the rope first will have the advantage. Duh.
To be fair, I will give Ali and was it John Schuyler?
Mm-hmm.
Their credit. They at least did I felt was the best job they probably could have, trying to work around and build a believable story around the stipulation of this match.
You're right. They did. They tried. uh, yeah, it was more like, well, whatever. I'm not even gonna say it. I'll just say that yes, they started with their hands tied, then they then they cut. Well, Ali had some scissors in his knee pads or whatever, so he took those out, cut the ropes. I guess there's
Which
nowhere in the rule book this big thick rule book about the call to arms match. There's nowhere it says you can't bring scissors in as long as you don't use them in the match.
Which, to be fair, that's actually a pretty good heel tactic. I'll give them credit for creativity points for that.
Yep.
In kayfabe context.
Yep. And then as he's beating up, John Schuyler with his hand still, he's still trying to untie his hand and fight off Ali the rest of the time. And Jason Hotch is able to make his way over and just give him Ali's scissors. But he already like almost got himself free of the rope by the time that he finally got it. So it was like a little bit too late. But whatever. Of course, this is John Schuyler versus Ali, so you already know who's going to win. You've seen the way these guys have been booked. There's should never have been any doubt how this was ever going to go. So he does the 450 on Schuyler, and then he gets into when he's getting a little bit too he wants to get a little too frisky and continue the beating afterwards, and he goes outside the ring, and then Hotch gets in his way, like, you're not going to use that chair, on my buddy or whatever. He's like, okay, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. And then he posts Jason Hotch, and then he goes in there with the chair, and then he's about to kill Schuyler with the chair, and then Tasha jumps in as a human shield and like, please don't. And he's like, well, I'm just going to do it anyway. And then we get some more music that we shouldn't have had ready because we finally find out, even though we already kind of knew, we finally find out who they've been talking to on the phone, the only man that can talk some sense into Ali. And it's Cedric the Alexander. Cedric Alexander is here. He's here. He's here. He's not gonna hurt people. He's gonna stop people from hurting people. Okay, and he comes in there and he gets in Ali, and he's like, hey man, don't do it or whatever. And then Ali is faced with the other people on one side, and he's all by himself on this side, so he has to walk away. He tries to take Tasha with him, but Cedric Alexander grabs her hand, and he's like, nope. And this is some really, really bad, corny pantomime and acting and stuff in this, but I mean, if you're excited to see Cedric the Alexander, here he is.
Mommy, Daddy, why are you fighting? And who's this other guy?
Yeah. Pretty much. So, all right, we've already given them credit for trying to work the match, but I don't know how much defense we can give to the post-match stuff.
Yeah, I came out of there looking like we're going to see Order 4 turning babyface and kicking Ali out of the group with Cedric Alexander taking his spot.
Yeah, and then we'll just have this babyface pseudo-political group.
Yeah, which is nobody's going to care about.
Yeah. Yeah, no one wants to see this. You're trying to make baby faces out of the great hands here? Are you shitting me? What? Is this Dreamer? Dreamer, is this your idea? I mean, he believes in people. I've learned. I learned that from Jake Something's promo. He believes in people, so I'm wondering, like, anytime something happens, I'm like, is this because Tommy Dreamer believed? You're only supposed to believe in Joe Hendry. I don't know.
Say their name and they appear. I believe in Order 4.
I ain't clapping for that, just so you know.
Oh, no, me either. That's why I didn't.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right. So the System's in the hallway doing a promo like they like to do. You want to know something? And then here comes Cardona. He's like, hey, what was that bullshit last week? Like, what do you mean? They kicked your ass, so you're just going to come and ask them what that was about? They beat the shit out of you. What's wrong with you? What is this? Who wrote this? Like, first of all, it wasn't last week. It was like later that day, probably. Like later that day from the promo where he's saying what was that last week. Like they probably hadn't even they probably filmed this before they had the match or whatever. So this guy is not appropriate levels of upset about this. You know, if I got beat down by a group of guys, if I challenged them to a fight by myself at all, I definitely would be bringing a weapon of some sort, and I probably wouldn't be asking any questions like, "What was that last week?" Um, but Cardona's actually not the smartest. He's not the brightest spoon in the shed, so I can understand why he wouldn't. But then Fat Eddie's like, "Hey, well, why don't we have a match next week?" Like, didn't they do this already except with tag teams?
He's the hometown man.
Yeah. So I just this is just the worst. It's the worst. They have no idea. Like,
Yeah, this
I'm
is
not
the-
sure they I'm not
the
sure they
lazy,
go ahead.
Yeah, lazy, uncreative.
I'm not sure they ever knew what to do with the system in the first place. But it's clear now that whatever they thought they knew what to do, they are completely out of ideas. They don't have any clue what to do with the system at all anymore. There's no reason for them to exist. They're just another part of the show. They don't run TNA. They're not they're like second-class citizens on this show now. You've managed to give Moose a championship belt and get him less over than he's been in a long time.
Remember when they first appeared, he's like these rich high rollers that as soon as they came together, they took all the gold? And they were like a serious threat, kind of?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at least a couple of times Fat Eddie wore shirts with collars on them. But no, now it's just like, well, we're in the hallway and we're all standing here doing a promo. Like there's absolutely nothing going on here. This is just, it's no different than, you know, the random Jake something promo earlier. That means nothing.
Yeah, and they even dropped the whole idea of Moose being the X Division champion because the reason why he took that belt was because, right, the X Division is the franchise. I'm the franchise player. So, yeah, I'm going to take this belt and be the main guy with it. They took it to like a certain area and then it just fell off and they forgot about it.
Yeah, completely fell off and they forgot about it. Then after they forgot about it, they had an outsider win the TNA championship and he's just cool with that. So like nothing to do with that.
That's actually a great storyline option. Thing where you use cash in option C.
Yes. Or at the very least, you need to be more competitive as an alpha male about your spot in the company.
Yeah, you think you're Trichinay? I'm the X Division champion. You ain't the man I am.
Yes. And we're getting none of that. So it writes itself. I mean, if you're putting people in certain positions, you know, these opportunities just pop up on their own. You don't have to think of them. But you're forcibly ignoring them. For what purpose? I don't know. Because nothing else you're doing is any good on this show. I'm sorry to just say that like that. There's nothing good on this show. Not one good thing. The best we can do is just say how you didn't fuck it up like irreparably, like the call to arms match. Like in concept, that was just the shittiest idea, and these poor guys had to go out and make lemonade out of it.
And to their credit, I thought they did a decent enough job.
Right. And that's the level of praise we're giving them. We're saying they did a decent enough job of trying to save this shit that you put them in. We're not sitting here saying, oh man, you guys, if you missed this episode of Impact, you got to go out of your way to watch the call to arms match. No, we're saying, you didn't fuck it up. That's not how this shit should go, dudes. Sorry.
Yeah, it should be the first one.
So, I mean, yeah. Anyway, so next week, oh, this will put butts in seats. The Northern Armory versus the Hardys.
Probably nothing more than a jerk off match for the Northern Army to be like, hey, we worked the Hardys.
And nobody owes them a goddamn thing. But whatever. They do get, yeah. They probably, the Hardys are probably broken more of a sweat jerking off than beating these guys in this match. Eric Young gets ejected by security, and like he does one thing, the one time he tries to interfere in the match and the referee catches him and ejects him, and then the and then then like Tom is overselling it on the comments like he's crazy. This guy's crazy because he ripped his shirt off. He took his shirt off when he got mad. Like,
by God, Eric Young's going crazy. God, that shirt's got a family.
yeah. Well, at least okay. In the spirit of giving them faint praise, I will say this: at least they knew, the Hardys knew, or whoever agented this match knew that was as high as the point as it was going to get, and there wasn't any reason to prolong this any further. So as soon as Eric Young got ejected, they kind of basically took it home right away and hit the swanton. Because, yeah, the Armory's survivability should not be that high anyway. But even so, they already reached the high point in the match, which is Eric Young getting ejected. So let's finish this. Good job on that. Then the Hardys get on the microphone and call out Leon Slater. Then they put over Leon Slater, and then Leon Slater gets the mic and says he's going to win this for everyone. Everyone from his mom to himself to the people and everybody and the Hardys. And Moose has a match, so he's going to go to the commentary table and watch from ringside. So that was that.
I thought Slater cut a decent promo. Obviously, he knew, okay, this is them handing me the ball, because I really think they're putting the high title on him at Slammiversary. I think he's going over a Moose.
Yeah, probably. I mean, probably.
And he's one of the first few like homegrown stars that they've built up, and plus the Hardys put a lot of work into helping build him up too.
Yep. I mean, he's done a lot of jobs, but
I mean, that too.
Because again, you can't just have something; you have to ruin it first. They didn't have to job him out all those times. They did, but they didn't have to, but they did. Speaking of jobs, it's Moose versus Shane Saber and Jake Painter, because Moose says on the microphone that in the spirit of the X Division, he wants to make this a triple threat match. So, okay. I'm not blaming Moose for that. So anyway, the match starts and he gives big boots to everybody, and maybe they get a little bit of offense in, but basically this goes like pretty much like a handicap match. And yeah. You look like you were about to say something.
No, and this is one of those weird things from how my mind works. Like the first thing I thought of was like, okay, Moose is going to be talking about the making the spirit of the X Division. Why not a 2-on-1 Ultimate X match where he just beats the shit out of these guys, climbs up and wins easily? Me like, I'm not afraid of heights no more. And our match is going to be an Ultimate X match, 1-on-1.
I mean, that would have been something, but they didn't do it.
One of the rare times, like this, one of the rare times you could have done like a gimmick match on free TV, but it's done to build to like the one with the serious stakes on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think so. But they didn't. Again, they didn't. And after Moose gets the win, he decides, because he's the whole time he's clearly focused on, if they get anything in, it's because he's focused on Slater out there at the table. So he's constantly, looking over at him, talking to him, whatever. And then after the match, when he starts beating up, one of the guys, and he's kind of looking at Slater as he's beating him up. So Slater slides in, and then Moose just like leaves. So not really the best, but better than just another match where guys get into a fight before the big thing, which is probably still coming because I'm sure we have another Impact before, at least another Impact or two before we get to Slamversary. So I do have some news about Moose. It is, I saw, well, I've seen the social media posts that these pre-ordered action figures will be shipping out this fall. That's the closest I have to a timetable, is this fall. So another couple of months at the very least before we get to our live unboxing. But at least we know that we have an update that yes, this hasn't been canceled. They are going through with it.
And, better than hearing nothing. At least you know you're going to get what you paid for. It might be down the line, but
yes, and even that small, that very Fightful Select-ish piece of news is still better than anything that was on this show. So I am happy to share it, but I was saving it until the Moose segment, so that it was the most relevant. Okay, so we got a promo package, and then we get the main event, which is the street fight between AJ Francis and Mike Santana. Now, I could have wrote a lot of notes about this. What I did was write 0 notes, really. Because, I just didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like making notes of the things that were happening. But the first thing I thought of was, if you don't get rid of Casey Navarro, this is going to be stupid. And they didn't. He basically was sitting drinking champagne the whole time, not getting involved, which in a street fight doesn't make any sense.
Right, because why wouldn't Mike Santana realize, okay, this guy's going to get involved at some point. I need to neutralize him now.
Yep. But, so they go through all of this as if he's not there, which he is. So right there, the psychology is just right out, right down the toilet.
Or how about this? You do a backstage segment where you have something where, I don't know, maybe Santana traps him in a room, putting a forklift on the door, or just something you do backstage, and that cuts him off.
Or you could have Santino grab Casey Navarro and say, I need you to do some promotional materials for us right now, please. Do some, something that's just not the usual, I'm banning you from ringside, but just have him be too busy that he can't be out there at this particular time. Because that would be a lot more realistic and funny than just the usual crap.
Yeah, that's a good left turn. People would not expect that to come in, and it makes sense.
Yes. I need you to take some promotional photos for, our new trading cards or something, just what now? Yes, right now. No, let's just have him sit out there and not get involved for most of the match. The man has an injury. I know, even more reason he shouldn't be there.
Right, yeah, you could, yeah, that's another thing. You could have Santino be like, no, you're injured. You can't be at ringside. If you're too injured to wrestle, you're not being at ringside. Let's go.
Yep. Lots of things, but do we get any of these things? No.
Nope.
Does anybody care? No. So at some point in the match, Santana sets up a couple of tables, and then AJ ends up going through them. He gets sort of I mean, attitude adjusted through those tables, and nice bump. So, 2 tables for one, please. I'm sure that's happened in AJ Francis's life where he's had to have 2 tables just for himself. Um, Maybe one table was all Cheez-Its. I don't know. Uh, but after so at this point, Trick Williams runs down. Um, and I forget what happens to Trick Williams. What happens to him? Does he just?
I think he got countered somehow because I know it led to Santana winning. I think.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just honestly don't remember. This is where I should have made some notes. But anyway, at some point, KC, like, AJ is up from the 2 table bump. AJ's back, and then KC gives him the champagne bottle that he's had. He takes a drink of the champagne. He takes the bottle, sets the bottle down, and then goes for something, and then gets countered, and then Santana gets the bottle, breaks it on his face, then hits spin the block, and then wins the match.
Which at least they paid that off, the whole champagne bottle thing, where it's like, okay, the champagne bottle took him out, plays in the finish of the match.
Yes. However, you did make AJ look stupid by just not using it. So, again, can you
who did this?
Yeah, can you have Santana kick him and like have him drop the bottle? No, you can't do that because it's going to break if he does that because it's a gimmicked bottle. But there's ways around it that you don't just make him look like a complete moron. Even though I know they love to make him look like a complete moron. So, after Santana wins, he gets on the microphone and he sort of just insinuates himself into the main event of Slammiversary.
But to be fair, it kind of seems like a last minute because of I think they might have been going for Joe Hendry versus Elias, with one of those two turning heel, but because Elias got hurt for real, they kind of had to adjust on the fly.
Maybe so. They could have. I don't know, because I mean, again, wasn't this all the same tapings?
I think these were the first. This was the first show in a new set of tapings.
Was it? Okay. Well, if that's the case, then that's okay. But they definitely did not have to make it seem like they made it seem like the advertised match was just going to be Joe Hendry versus Trick Williams, because that's what they put in the graphic. That's what they've been telling you. And now you have Santana come out just saying he's going to be in that match, and Santino owes him one. So, okay, you could have left it ambiguous in the first place. Like, you didn't have to put up the graphic of Joe Hendry versus Trick Williams 1-on-1. If you knew you were going this route, you could have just made it seem like it wasn't finalized yet. So, I don't know. Of all the nitpicks or whatever that I would have, that's probably the least of them.
To be fair, if they are going with the direction of the original plan, or the original plan is going to be Hendry and Trick Williams in a one-on-one match, and then we actually got about at least a month or close to a month before Slammiversary. That's enough time for to do a storyline where Santana's building fan support to basically force his way into the match.
I do have to laugh if, and by laugh I mean just get angry again. If their actual plan was to turn Elijah on Joe Hendry, like even after all that, like all the stuff they did and him doing that, and then to turn on him after all of that, that would have been terrible. Nobody, it wouldn't have made any sense.
Yeah, it's like, why now? Why? Like, yeah, you couldn't. There's nothing you can pull out of your ass to make sense out of that.
Yeah. They'd already gone through way too much together that somebody would never do if they were just planning to, if this was an evil scheme that they were hiding all along. They wouldn't just be having all these matches with all these people and stuff and having your back. It's just, that's way too far to go for something as simple as that. And then I'm gonna turn on you, another wrestling turn. That is absolutely probably what they were going to do, because I know it's the worst thing they could do. So that's probably what it was going to be. And if I'm sorry that he had to tear his tricep just to get out of it. But in the long run, I think it'll be better for us anyway.
Do you happen? I forgot where it was, but somebody was asking Kevin Owens, "Who do you think El Grande Americano is?" He said Elias because he's a liar, and I should know.
That's funny. Well, I can only imagine what it would be like if Kevin Owens were backstage at TNA and they were giving him this creative. I can only imagine what he might have to say. But yeah. So what we could take away from this is that, damn right, the Moose Powertown action figures are shipping out this fall. That is what we could take away from this. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be in fall. I guess there's still a possibility everything could get canceled. But man, one of these days. One of these days.
Oh, Laura, one of these days, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
That's right. That's my Bush. All right. Well, anyway, we're not going to get any higher note than that. So just like the Hardys after Eric Young got ejected, let's just take it home. Brandon, where can the people find you?
As usual, you can catch me on Twitter, or as the kids call it these days, the X at LG Brandon Whoop. I'm also on Twitch at LG Brandon Whoop Whoop, and it looks like we're going to be doing a surprise bonus stream once about 15 minutes off we go off the air from here. And then tomorrow night, we got the late start NXT Watch Along, which will air as soon as the A show is done. And then, of course, Wednesday, we got the AEW Dynamite Watch Along and Belt Count. Thursday, the TNA Impact Watch Along and Belt Count. Friday, SmackDown Watch Along and Belt Count. Saturday, I think we're going to do nothing's going on Saturday, right? As far as wrestling wise?
I don't think so.
So that's like it's going to be HMG After Dark that night. Sunday as well. So yeah, and then
Black Dynamite? You know, Black Dynamite?
Possibly, potentially, because we got two nights, and I'm not really sure what to fill them with at the moment.
Okay.
Might do a double head. If we do Black Dynamite, it'll probably be a double header.
Okay.
Not sure what the second one will be. Ooh, Black Dynamite and Mallrats.
Okay. Say, can I interest you in a chocolate covered pretzel? They're a little melty, but damn
are they exquisite.
Okay. So that's what's coming up. And as far as me, at Opinion Haver everywhere, of course, you can catch me on all the HMG programs that you love, such as the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, where we talk about the NXT portion of this crazy partnership. And if you want to hear about crazy AEW, then you're going to want to tune in every Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for Jimmy T and myself on The Wreckage, which this past Wreckage, if you guys didn't catch it, you're going to want to catch it because we had a very special guest. Ivy League educated comedian author Denard Dale came on and admitted AEW fan. So we got to pick the brain of a literal brilliant man to see, like, why do you like this stuff? Like, how does a intelligent person perceive these things? And it was a pretty fun time. It's definitely unique for us. He's got a book on sale, How to Dodge a Cannonball. Check that out if you haven't. And yeah, so definitely check out the wreckage. It's up there. It's gonna stay up there. It's a free episode on YouTube. So if you didn't catch it, please go back and check it out. Really appreciate that, and share it around too. Make sure everybody gets to see this episode. Let's see what else we got. Oh, of course we got Wrestling with Rip Rogers every Friday. Ask Rip a question. You got Stevie Richards show every Friday. You know, you don't need to ask him questions, even though sometimes he has a fan questions episode. But he's definitely got enough. He's starting his chronicling of Stevie Night Heat this past Friday, so we'll see part 2 of that either this week or later, maybe somewhere down the line. I'm not sure exactly how their schedule is set up, but please check out Stevie Richards. Of course, we also have Limpin' Ain't Easy with Timmy Baltimore with special guest Mike Mondo. What a great episode that was. Mike Mondo talking about all the stuff that his mindset, the mind of Mondo, all that, you know, my original trainer, Mike Mondo. So,
Ooh, yeah, the Mondo man.
that's right. So, yes. So that's pretty much it for all the programming notes that we have. So for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign-off line.